Where is the time going? It is flying by this month. And this week, I'm joined by Jessie McGuire, partner at Thought Matter in New York. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited about this chat because Jessie is someone who thinks really deeply about design, not just how it looks, but what it actually does and the impact it has. Plus, the responsibility that comes with it. So in this wonderful chat, we talk about imagination, why it matters more than ever, and how it can actually shape the world around us. We get into conviction, creative courage, and why staying a little uncomfortable might be the whole point. And we also chat about her journey over the last decade at Thought Matter, including some very well-deserved recognition with a National Design Award. If you've ever wondered whether your work really makes a difference, really makes a difference, this one's for you. This episode is sponsored by Adobe Acrobat Studio, the AI-powered workspace that's changing how we work with documents. Whether you're dealing with contracts, research, client briefs, or creative projects, Acrobat Studio brings everything together in one place, so you can spend less time managing files and more time doing the work that matters. Find out more at the link in the show notes. I love that when we just met then, Jessie, and it's been a while since we've known each other, only over emails and online, but you said you were very loud and very short. I love that.
That is true.
We were adjusting our mic levels, weren't we, getting ready? I mean, I always get rusty. I start a new podcast season and I always forget what I'm doing. Now, we're getting into lots of different things with you today. You've had some big news. We'll get into that shortly. But you are basically telling me, when we were just having a chat just then, you were talking so passionately about the fact that design is the things that get you really excited about design in this amazing industry is the imagination that plays that central role. I mean, was that why you started Thought Matter in the first place?
Yeah, imagination is something that I think a lot about. So I have been at Thought Matter for 10 years. We were started by our founder, Tom Jaffe. And so I started with him a year after Thought Matter got off the ground. So I've been really working with him to shape the vision, the work, and it's been a wild ride. I have to not use the word journey. There's been so many times with him that I'll be like, what a journey this has been. And he's like, are you in karaoke? Why do you keep saying journey? But so it's become kind of a joke with us that is it really a journey or has it been, something that has, for me, has almost been my life's work, right? And yes. Working with a founder who loves experimenting, who's not afraid of failure in many ways, and is as curious as somebody can be, I feel like was a perfect match to my own ambition. I have, which we'll get into, I'm incredibly relentless. When I love something or get into something, I work as hard as I can to find the edges of what that is. And so I feel like my own ambition of thinking about design's role in creativity in the world around us matched with Tom's appetite for experimentation has really brought us Thought Matter. So Thought Matter is an independent design studio. We're here in New York, and we are a little over 10 years old. And it's been incredible what we've been able to accomplish, not only for our clients, but also for the benefit of the public as it relates to imaginative works. So excited to talk about all of that with you today.
Yeah, forgive me. I always made the assumption that you were the founder of Thought Matter, and I bet you get that quite a lot, actually.
Yeah. So I was named partner a few years ago, back in 23. And that was a lot of conversations about what is the nuances between a founder, a partner, a leader, all the words that you can put to it. And I do think titles are always important, but at the end of the day, it's what you can really accomplish with what you've been given. And so I've truly been given runway by Tom for 10 years when I started as a consultant, when I think I was a strategy director to managing director to partner to I feel like now just somebody who has benefited from being around the resources and the possibility that we've made for ourselves in 10 years. So.
Yeah, you're one of these rare creatives that stays somewhere and works really hard up the ladder in that same place.
Yeah, it goes back, I think, for me about being really, and like I said, good or bad, like I really am relentless. Like ask anybody who meets me, they're like, oh boy, here we go. When she gets onto something, she's going to keep going. And that's been true for my whole life.
Really? Do you come from a big family? I get the impression you do.
I love that you said that. I don't. I'm an only child.
Oh, interesting. I got that completely wrong.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's the energy I'm getting. I just had this vision of you being surrounded by a lovely big family, that you had to have a loud voice to be heard, to speak up amongst all of your kind of siblings. But no, you were right there on your own.
Yes, I actually joke a lot with different people that I can be an older, the sort of the archetype of the older sister. Like the older sister gets everything done. I can assume the role of like the older sister. I also can assume the role of like the younger sister who just like pushes boundaries and pushes buttons. So it depends on the room I'm in, what I take on. But certainly being an only child shaped, I think, my appetite for connection. I really do love being around people. I say this all the time, much to my children and my husband's chagrin, that I hate being alone.
You got to have company.
I have to have company. I would. Because I get energy from people. Like even, we just met and I get so excited when I get to like talk with somebody and I hear what they're thinking and sort of reading the room and like, what are people excited? And, I love when there's a lot of energy and I pull from it. If there's not, I also love like bringing the energy, like what could that sort of balance out. But I certainly am an extrovert to extrovert. Like I get fueled by more people, more things, more ways to see, what's possible and how to, keep going. But I feel like I love keeping going with other people. If I'm by myself, then it's just static and I'm just there.
Yeah.
Waiting.
And then you're like, what now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And so is this why we see your face everywhere? That you've been sort of you've become the face of Thought Matter?
Yes. It's funny that you say that because there's been so many times I'm like, oh, I got to I have a headshot. But there has been a lot of conversations about what and how do you talk about work. And I mean, you obviously with Creative Boom have been so wonderful in uplifting and amplifying voices. And I feel like people want to know the people behind the work and behind the stories and behind what's happening. And so I guess, have been that person. I also think that has played a role in my own leadership because I love being able to work with designers and strategists and writers to help shape how to talk about the work. I say this all the time that, really wonderful thinkers sometimes can like sit in the work, but then when they're asked to present it, maybe they're not in, the right mood or the conditions aren't right and they struggle with it. I think what I've really been excited by is helping to create those conditions to be able to talk about it. Or if somebody doesn't know how to shape that, like I show up in the room and able to have those conversations. Certainly have had so much opportunities to talk to different clients in different sectors at different levels and in different ways and in different political conditions. And so I've loved that experience, but I feel like it's always been in service of bigger ideas and a team behind me. So even though, I was just joking, I've had to send many headshots in, and then, you think of like, is that with the right lighting? Does that look like me? Do I want that? And then you're like, why am I even thinking about that? Like, this is just to show a person behind a team, because Thought Matter, though, has gone through different sizes. We've always been a team of people. It's always been more than just Tom and I over the 10 years. So it's how do we represent all of that thinking, all of that work, both for our team, but also our clients. So yeah, I guess I've been lucky to be the face of that.
Yeah, and you had to deal with lots of roller coasters, especially in the last 5 or 6 years. It's been really tough, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. I started with Thought Matter in 2016. Mm-hmm. Was it 2016, which was a year of, for me, possibility of having potentially the first female president, really thinking through what was next in New York City. And I was really eager and wide-eyed and bushy-tailed coming out of the Obama administration. And then when the election happened, living in my New York City bubble, shocked. And with the first Trump administration, that was really where, as a design studio that was just getting started thinking about design's role in public life, that's what we were thrown into. What was our role, our ability, our opportunity to create work that history would look back on.
Gave you purpose, gave you that extra dimension. You must have gone mad during the pandemic then, if you love to be around people.
Yeah. So then, 2020 was definitely another sort of marker, I think, of what has shaped Thought Matter. We actually moved into a brand new space in February of 2020. We had moved from a really beautiful space in Flatiron, but it was small, and we love throwing parties. We love bringing the community together. And so we were like, we need a space that's a little more modular, like we can bring a lot of people in. And so we moved 2 buildings down to a space that was almost more than double the size, because we thought it would be great to have panels and community, and it was open concept. It was a beautiful space. We moved in February of 2020. And I remember in March, we said we were going to do a quick test to see if we could work from home, because it looked like there was something happening and we might need to work remotely.
Oh, wow. That's well caught. Yeah.
So it wasn't until probably 2022 that we came back to the space to really utilize it. So Tom and I made the decision to keep the space. It's like I said, it's absolutely beautiful. It holds many pieces from Tom's contemporary art collection. So it's just like it's like a gallery meets studio meets community space. And so even thinking about not having it just felt so anti our ethos. So we decided to keep it, which was a big decision. And we worked mostly remotely with the team for 2.5 years.
Wow. What do you think's been the biggest change since then in how you operate and how everyone is?
That's a great question. I think from before the pandemic, we almost didn't know what we didn't know. We were a new studio. We were working with clients that knew that they were maybe the first in that sector, like our first packaging client knew that they were our first packaging client. Our first community arts client knew they were our first community arts client. And so we together were shaping the work. And then the pandemic hit. And like I said, we had gotten a lot of momentum coming into moving into a new space. We were making inroads in the industry, the design industry here in New York City. I had sat on the AIGA New York board. So I was getting to know people in the industry. And so we had a lot of wind beneath our sails, as they say,
wings.
And wings. Yeah. Wind beneath my wings. Yeah. but feeling really, really eager. And then the pandemic happened. And I think in some ways it made us pause and stop and say, what is really at the core of what we're doing? Is it just being, for me, but also the studio, is it just being around people, or is it the impact that our work can have? And so when we were sitting all at home in our bedrooms, really contemplating probably more existential questions, it forced us to really then think, what then is the role of creativity? And so we did some large public scaled work. We did a project called COVIDity, which was creativity in the time of COVID. COVIDity.
Wow. Feels like an age away.
I know. And so we as a studio were talking a lot. We had a lot of Zooms. I will tell you, I sat on a lot of Zooms in my bedroom, had a lot of happy hours on Zooms. There's like a lot of staring at people's faces on screen. But we talked a lot about our own mental health. Like, how are we feeling? Are we isolated? Are we excited? Are we, what all the range of emotions. And so through that, we said, well, could we do a project that truly brings that to life? And there must be so many other creatives going through this. And so we pulled that together into this project called COVIDity, which were these 6 surreal worlds. And then we wanted to project them. No, actually, we wanted to create almost like a gallery of them. But then we decided to do what we call digital graffiti, where we projected them on different sites in New York City. And it was one night only. And so anyone who was walking by, I think we had 4 sites in New York City, one being underneath the Brooklyn Bridge. Anyone walking by were able to see these 5 surreal worlds, to really think about what was the role of this thing happening to all of us collectively, called COVID. Like, what was the impact it was having on us as people? And so that really was a wonderful project during the pandemic that I think got us back into, okay, we actually can work with clients and help them navigate this time. And so we had sort of a mantra at the time, which was, how do we shine a light on unmet needs? And so it really was thinking about, what are some of the unmet needs that are happening now that we're seeing new ways of looking at our city, new ways of looking at our healthcare, new ways of looking at how people treated each other, what was essential work, what was not, who was more important, what does that look like? So that really drove a lot of our client work at that time. And then, so I feel like that really was a big shift in the possibility for a design studio to show up in public life.
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously benefited from being in New York. Going to amazing creative hubs such as the Big Apple is always going to be beneficial to your business. So it's quite interesting to know that at that weird time, everybody across the world was put into exactly the same boat. And suddenly where you were located didn't really matter. So I guess in that sense, it made a lot of us pull our socks up and put them up a lot higher, and really have a think about what our values were or are, and how that we want to grow and how we want to move. And I really think it gave us an opportunity to level up, if that's a crude way of putting, that, and during what was, an awful time, really.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, and I think I read this or we were talking about this, but it really hit home for me, which was, there was a moment in the pandemic. And again, I feel very lucky and privileged. I was able to work from home. At the time, I had a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my husband was able to work from home. And so we were very lucky in that way. But somebody had said, when the world stops, it actually makes you think about the decisions you've made that have designed your life.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like that. And as I just established, I like moving and moving and moving. I sometimes don't stop. And so that was a moment where I was actually forced to have to stop and look around and like, was this the life that I was purposefully designing? And I realized it was. Like, I was so, I mean, now I look back, right? But I had a 2-year-old watching like Coco Melon and like crazy, but I felt so blessed to have two children, be raising a family in the city, to have a husband who's an artist and also an educator. And like, we had so many conversations just about, are we where we want to be? Is this how we want to be raising our children? Where do we want to be putting our energies? What do you, as a creative individual, how do you use your talents? And I will say, it put all of that into perspective, and even putting those energies into thought matter really was a gift. I had a gift to be able to sit on a Zoom with, at any given time, it was between 10 and probably 18 people. And we had amazing Zoom parties. I remember we had a holiday party called Into the Zoomaland. And so it was like this Alice in Wonderland.
Good. What did you go dressed as?
What did I get? I think I wore a lot of sparkles, and we hired a DJ. We had a DJ on Zoom.
That's great.
And yeah, but all like I said, the energy and that perspective was put into the team, was put into how do we connect with each other, and how do we then find clients that really would, I don't want to say feed our soul, but clients and work that really felt worth our time.
Yes. You were one of the studios that stayed then, because quite a few people left New York during that period. And then I guess what you were left with, has it changed a lot since then, the design industry in New York?
I would say, has the design industry changed a lot in New York?
Or are you just in your lovely bubble and you just focus on your kind of family and your work? Because it's the same in any city, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I've actually, I think coming out of the pandemic, I realized how important it was to talk to emerging designers. And we've always loved interns. So we've always had young emerging designers to come into our studio, because I've always felt that the resources that we've had as a studio should be shared with those that might not have an opportunity to see a studio like ours. So that has always been true. We've had high school interns, we've had college interns, but coming out of the pandemic in 22, 23, I talked to so many young designers that were either going to school on Zoom. How you go to art school on Zoom is like beyond me, but they did it. You had young people who were doing internships on Zoom. You had young people who weren't going and I had mentioned before, I sat on the AIJ New York board where it was all around events. So there were no more events to go to. There was no more I bumped into and saw such and such person from such and such agency. And so I actually wanted to, as a studio, I wanted us to really think, how could we expand our own access and open our own doors? And so we started an event series called Afterthought. One person's afterthought is another person's inspiration. And it was all about emerging designers coming into our space, thinking about their portfolios, thinking about how to talk about their work. How could they meet other designers at different moments in their career? And we got so much from it. Again, it did start very much how can we give back? But then as we did 3 events, one around identity, one around belonging, one around, what was the last one? I think it was around innovation. We as individuals, having sat on Zoom and with our clients and in our briefs and in our challenges, and you kind of get all a little angsty about it. We realized that when you talk to young designers that they're not jaded yet, hopefully. There's just so much possibility that they see in the work because they don't know what they don't know. And I think it refueled us. I think in 22, 23, when we had those afterthought events, we became even more energized by winning new work with new clients, because we were like, wait, the more work we get, the more opportunity it is for us to hire some of these young people or these emerging designers to come into our space and get the same experiences that we've had. So you asked me before, do I think that the design industry has changed in New York post the pandemic? And in many ways, I hope that it has. Yeah. And I think as I kind of think towards the future and what's next, I want to see more opportunities for the design industry to talk to each other and ourselves. And I've always said this, and I really do believe it, that rising tides lift all boats.
Yes.
Like, I really do believe as an industry, if we can all hold hands, maybe not hold hands, but really look at each other and say, what work are you doing? Are you elevating what we're doing? Are you thinking about the public benefit in our work? Are you pushing back on clients that might not be doing the kind of work we want to see? Are you questioning power in the spaces we should be questioning it? Because I think it'll just make us all better for it.
Adobe Acrobat Studio is sponsoring today's episode, and I want to tell you about 2 features that honestly stopped me in my tracks when I first heard about them. The first is Generate Podcast. You can take any document, a report, a research paper, a long brief, and Acrobat Studio will turn it into a podcast, an actual audio conversation from your written content in minutes. The second is Generate Presentation. Same idea, feed it a document and it builds you a full structured presentation. No starting from a blank slide, no reformatting, no wrestling with layouts. It just does it. For anyone who creates a lot of content or needs to communicate complex ideas in different formats, these 2 features alone are worth exploring. Head to the link in the show notes to find out more. I was in New York, actually. I came over for a client in February 2020. And my husband said to me, there's this new thing, developing in China. He said, are you sure you want to go? Because it's looking pretty serious. I'm not sure what's going on. I was like, I'll be fine. Be all right. And so I was in New York when you were probably moving into your new space. And I've always felt that New York is like a little village. Everybody knows each other. But it's like the same with any city. Everybody's busy. Everybody's got their heads down and working. It must be hard, like trying to do these extra initiatives to give back when you've already got so much going on with your work and your clients. I mean, what would that look like if you did get people together? You could call it something like, you could call it something to do with raising the tide, and do a kind of meetup on a monthly basis. Have a round table. I'll come and host it.
Yes. Oh, I love that. We actually are thinking about larger public programming as we head into this 2026 year, thinking about as a studio, how do we push where communication design is going. And so we've been putting a lot of thoughts on how we could do bringing people together, having roundtables, making it both internal and external, kind of pressure testing some of the I'm going to call them sort of empty promises that sometimes us as designers, we say like, design can change the world. Like, okay, but like how and where and when it shows up when, I've actually been thinking about this. When an opportunity presents itself to you that might change your world or the collective world, I've actually learned many times people run away from that because it usually is unexpected, it's unclear, there's ambiguity to it. You don't know if you're going to like do the right or wrong thing. And I actually think a lot of people, maybe not intentionally, but subconsciously run away from that because it feels really hard.
Yeah, it feels uncomfortable maybe. Maybe they don't know how to, tackle it when there's lower hanging fruit, I guess.
Yeah, so I've been thinking a lot, like how do we bring the industry together? Like maybe you're hosting, such a wonderful host, like hosting the conversation of what do you do when you're presented an opportunity that could potentially change your future or somebody else's future, and how do you find confidence in that insecurity? How do you find your own conviction in a moment when you might be pushed back on? Because I do think that a lot of times you think like, but if I do that, somebody might not like it. Or if I put my face on that, I might then have to stand behind it. Or if I and I get it. It's really exactly the word you just said, which is it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah, but uncomfortable is good. It means you're pushing boundaries and confronting things that are important, I think. I started this podcast in 2020, and suddenly there were conversations that were happening during that year that I'd never had before in my life. so I had to get uncomfortable quickly and very often. So I value that. I'm like really kind of grateful for that experience. I think the whole last 5 or 6 years, I think a lot of us have had to think more about what we're doing and the impact we're having in the world. And it's having that imagination. See how I went back to the theme there. It's having that imagination to see what's possible and realizing that you can make it possible, that you do count. It's not, just because it might be just you, that doesn't mean you can't make a difference. There's something you can do in your life that will impact people in a positive way, surely.
Yeah. I mean, something, I know one of or a question I know you've asked before, I've listened to different podcasts and kind of thinking is like, what's something that is a controversial take or like a hot, maybe not a hot take, but something that's like pushed back. But I feel like something that I've really been sitting with a lot, and it brought up when you just said it, is that I 100% believe that design is not neutral. It just can't be. Like, our proximity to power as designers is so close that we can't continue to pretend like we aren't designing outcomes. Like that is, I mean, you listen to so many wonderful practitioners of design, those that have really cut their teeth in these sort of torchbearers of our industry. And I mean, that's always been at the heart of what most people say is, oh my gosh, design has such an ability to like change outcomes, or design has the ability to, have a seat at the table, or can like push business, business forward, all these things. And we get so excited as designers, right? I mean, I've been that person listening, oh my gosh, this is so true. Like, imagine if I had a seat at the table, what would that look like? And I feel like in 2026, we all have a seat at the table. Like, we all, if we're designing really anything, but if we're certainly designing communication, if we're designing visual language, if we're designing the narratives that people are reading, if we're designing how people interact with interfaces, we are shaping the world as we see it. And so it is not neutral. We make a decision as a designer to have somebody swipe left or right, depending on what they see. That's been designed. You get people to scroll faster, or to get people to stay on something for a long period of time, for them not to go do something else. We've designed that. That is so powerful. And it's not neutral.
Yes. Yeah. It's murky waters, isn't it?
It's deep waters.
Yeah. I think there's been lots of positive cultural shifts over the last few years, but there's also been, in some cases, it's felt like it's going backwards. I suppose that's always been the case, the history of time. But it's having the imagination and having the confidence to be able to keep pushing forward for that positive change. And it can sometimes feel like wading through treacle, because not everybody has caught up, have they, or don't want to make the change. I mean, I'm talking in being very vague, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, and I think that's why I said deep waters, because sometimes it's very clear that it's going to be really deep. Like, it's clear that you're going to keep going and going and going, and kind of what we were saying earlier about being uncomfortable. And I think what I'm really excited for is designers to realize we can go really deep, and we can hold our breath for a little longer than we think we can, to be able to understand how to make that change, how to sit in our own conviction, to not allow our designs to collapse under reactionary pressure, like not to have just a hot take on something without having work to show for how to change your own outcomes. So I appreciate the murkiness of it, and maybe it is kind of like you don't know where you're going. But I think as we continue to see technology advance, and we continue to see ways that people can collectively come together, there's the possibility that we can go deeper and faster together to make those changes that we want to see. I think all the time about local community, like because so many times, I'm sure you've heard this, and I've heard this especially from designers in my team and emerging designers. Like, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to do work that matters. And I get that question a lot. I think because our name is Thought Matters, and so it's like, how do I do work that matters? And I always start with, well, what actually matters to you? And it's interesting because some people say, well, I don't know a client. And I'm like, but that wasn't the question. Like, what is something that truly matters to you? Like, if you're a parent, like your children, their education, the way that we care for mothers, like all those things matter to you. So how can you start to do work in those spaces that changes those outcomes? Or, maybe there's something you're really into sport. I mean, you get really into sports or community. Like, how do you find work in those spaces? And so, I think it's really for us to have a little bit of a, should I say reckoning? That seems, but like a little bit of a come together moment to say, if you're a designer and you're creative and you can imagine new ways to do something, you're kind of unstoppable.
Yes, that's powerful. Yeah. And there'll be lots of people listening to this thinking, yeah, maybe I should do that thing. Maybe I should start that idea, that group. Maybe I should talk to my friend and see what they think. It's just taking that first step, isn't it?
It's taking the first step, then taking the second step. And then when someone tells you it's not a good step, you keep going for that third step. Like I actually was just talking about that conviction. Is that the word? Like the
yes.
Courage of your conviction over time compounds.
Yes. Love that quote. It's having the imagination to know that you can help change the world. It's a beautiful thing. Now, you've been doing a lot of amazing work, and it's so lovely to hear. And I think we can actually talk about it, can't we? You've just won an amazing award, haven't you? I'm so made up for you, Jessie, because I know how hard you work. It's the National Design Award. My God.
Yes. You're the first person outside of our studio that I have said that Thought Matter has won the National Design Award.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. It is 10 years of this work, 10 years of working with tremendous people, thinking about what's possible. And if there's any signal that conviction compounds, it's getting this award. Because it's an award that is 26 years old. It was started in 2020 out of the Cooper Hewitt, which is part of the Smithsonian.
I'm just looking now at all the details. My goodness. Wow. It's very prestigious.
Yeah. And so you don't apply for it. You get nominated. And there's a high confidentiality, so you can't talk about the process. But for us, when we were nominated, they said it was we could submit as it relates to our 10 years of work. So it was our body of work over 10 years. And so it was pretty tremendous, but also really nerve-wracking. I remember we got the email. At first I thought it was spam because I was like, wait.
What is this?
What is this? But then clearly it was not spam. And so I think I had a week off with my children when this came through, and I was like, oh. And so I actually spent a whole week just thinking about my 10-year experience doing work that hasn't always made sense. It just some of the projects we've done over the years, like no one knows why we did it or how does it relate to clients. I know this isn't video, but I printed out, I had written on our board all the different projects that we've done and all the different things that we've thought about. And I realized that when you look at a body of work, it forces you to think about what is the practice that you believe in. It was really tremendous. Like, I feel like it was a gift to be able to, again, I guess, slow down and say, okay, what are the things that we've done? And I feel so lucky for the current team that we have right now. We have a tremendous group creative director and a tremendous executive operations director who both sat down and said, okay, we know we've been here for a handful of years, but we're talking about 10 years of work. Jessie, how can we help you think through how to position it, how to talk about it, how to explore it, how to find the edges of what it is to be able to put the submission together. And like I said, it really, in many ways, was a gift in that way. And then when we found out that we won the award, I was actually out on medical leave. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to get myself together and find out, did we win this award? Did we not? And when we found out, we talked to the team there. It was just such a relief.
Yeah,
because I felt like it was this relief of everything that we've thought about as a team in different iterations of the team, and everything that Tom has truly believed in was being recognized for what it truly was, which was work put out into the public to make us think differently about the possibilities of creativity. And sometimes that hasn't made sense. But in this context, with an award from an institution like Cooper Hewitt that's part of the Smithsonian, it feels like an award on behalf of the public.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And when you were going through that amazing body of work, what was the theme that stood out to you?
Yeah. When I look at this board, and again, it was like we were putting all those words down, and I really loved putting it physically up on our wall in our design studio. We do a lot in Figma and a lot in Canva, like all these different things where it's all on the screen and you're looking at little thumbnails. But what I said to the team was like, no, it's got to be out on a wall. We have to see things. We were like pulling posters, we were pulling work, we were taking physical artifacts, and we were putting it all up. And in some ways, like I said, some things didn't make sense. Like actually, if you just indulge me, I was looking at, we had a list. It was just like a bulleted list. And I'm going to read you what the list said. It said, bitters, spices, crayons, doormats, platters, candles, posters, kombucha, and dice.
Nice. That's a list in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. And so what that list was, or is a list of all of the holiday gifts that we've created and designed for our clients over 10 years.
Wow. Oh, that's clever. So you picked out a theme.
For each, so when I was looking at it, I was like, what were we thinking each year? But I feel like something we have always been really passionate about is our clients and the people that trust us, right? Either with a challenge or with their work or with a dream that they have. And so every year we've wanted to celebrate that, right? We've had these partners and we've done the work for them, and they've paid us and we've given back our talents, but we've always wanted to create something that got them thinking about like, oh, you're never gonna work with maybe another studio like Thought Matter, or you want to keep working with a studio like Thought Matter. So, when I look at it, we did a doormat one year. I think it was in maybe 2019. It was definitely under the first Trump administration. And it was all around, for us, how do you welcome better? Yes. And we felt it was so important. And I mean, now in 26, I feel like the immigration crackdown is a different story, but and maybe not that different of a story, but it was a conversation for us around how do we had clients that were working with refugee women. We had clients who were thinking about ways that their nonprofit was building capacity for day workers. Like, we were doing all this work. And so we were like, okay, what if we sent everyone a doormat? It was a little Dada-esque, like it didn't make any sense, but it made sense. But it was really to question the welcoming. We did candles, which was all around like lighting a fire. Like, how do you light a fire in you? And so like, that is just an example. And again, this isn't, I could talk about all our client work, but I just loved when we put up on a wall all of the gifts we did. And every time we've talked about it, everyone's like, well, why do you do it? You're just investing in, creating something. But I really feel like each of them were a artful perspective of the moment. And I think that's so important for designers and anyone who has a design practice to think about, how do you use those talents to give back or to have somebody think about something new. And so if there was a theme in all of our work, I feel like it's that. And I know we keep going back to imagination, but it's really that imagination is unbound, right? Like it's it's not bound by anything. It's only bound by our own limits of what we think is possible. So we talk a lot about design to meet the moment. And I think that was something that really threaded through over 10 years. I really can truly sit behind all of the different wonderful creatives I've gotten to work with over 10 years. We all would sit around a conference room at any given time and say, how do we meet this moment head on?
I love that. And you should turn it into a book, by the way. That would be fascinating.
I don't know how to do a book, but that sounds great.
Oh, do it. Do it. We'll write about it as well. We'll support you. So you've been going through quite a lot of reflection, I'm guessing. There's been a lot of moments where you thought, why are we doing this? What's our purpose? And winning this incredible award is another chance to sort of say, oh, wow, okay. Wow, 10 years as well. With a lot of that kind of reflection, what do you think you personally have gotten out of this experience so far? You know, have you changed as a person? And is there something currently niggling at you that you've just got to sort of figure out?
Yeah, that's a great question. It certainly changes the way I think I've looked at not only myself, but like my leadership and just being a creative individual right now. I think something that has always been true for me is I've always kind of felt like an underdog. Like it's just always been kind of like who I am. I feel like there's been moments where I've certainly been underestimated, just throughout my life, not out of any malice. Like I just think there's been moments where people, just are like, okay, she just showed up here. Who is she? Why is she here? Like, I joke with everybody that I love conferences. I love conferencing, especially when I was younger. I would just like pop in like rooms and do things, and I'd end up at dinners, and I would just talk to people. But in some ways, I ended up in really amazing dinners in conferences because no one knew who I was. And I was sort of, like I said, sort of underestimated, like, oh, no, sure, come to dinner. Like, sit next to, this really wonderful design. And they'd be, who are you again? And you're just like, oh, I'm just here. Yeah. I love your work. And and so me. There's been just me. Yeah. So there's sort of been this, like, it's almost like I'm a little bit of a superpower. Like no one knows who you are, so you're just kind of showing up. And even over the last 10 years, and like I said, I've worked with so many amazing creatives. And sometimes they're like, Jessie, is this even possible? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's just keep going until somebody says no. And some people love that, some people don't. And I think what I've been reflecting on now with this award, which is an award representing 10 years of work and representing hundreds of people who have supported and added to this work, I feel like I now have a new responsibility of, it's no longer I don't know what I don't know, because it is possible to do work with conviction. It is possible to do work where you are pushing maybe a little bit of a political agenda. There is a moment where work does push culture. There is work that's going to make people uncomfortable. And so now that I know that, I feel like and I don't have an answer to it yet, but something that I'm just sitting with that I'm excited for is like, how do I now translate that to expanding even more how to help people do that? How do I get more people to see that you can do work that you believe in, or you can do work that makes people uncomfortable, but as long as you know that it's for the right reason, to have the impact you're expecting, that it's possible, right? Like, I think that that's something I've been really sitting with. I think the other thing that is true about me, good or bad, kind of going back to just being relentless, I have always loved knowing how influence happens. Like, I love the design greats. I feel like I have done especially in graphic design. Like I have researched the...
You're a design great, Jessie. Come on.
well, thank you. No, well, so I guess that, actually you say that because then that makes me think that I've always wanted to be near and around, I'm going to call them like the torchbearers of graphic design. Like you're like, I want to be a torchbearer. But I feel like and thank you for that compliment. I think what I realized now is it's not that I want to be one of the torchbearers. It's like I want to show people that there's new ways and different types of designers who can hold that torch, who can push it forward. And so that's something that I really want to move into the next few years with that. I think that Thought Matter winning the National Design Award shows that the work we're doing is really important, that civic imagination, that work that does support the public benefit, the work that takes a stand. I mean, I would be lying if I said we didn't have a conversation in our studio when we were submitting that we are submitting to a national institution with federal money that is saying that you shouldn't be putting out strong opinions, right? So we were like, okay, like, are we too polarizing?
Yeah.
But that's not, I feel like what we realized is it's going back to what I said earlier, that design is not neutral. It's not about polarizing or getting anybody angry, but it's about recognizing what you stand for and sitting in that truth, right? We redesigned the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah.
You actually can't get more political than that. We didn't make it polarizing.
Wow. Yeah.
But so it's how do we as a studio, and hopefully when people see that we've won this award, how does that get people to think like, right, that is the kind of work we should be doing. We should be thinking about, just what's happening not only in the US, but globally. And how does communication design change the narrative that we tell ourselves about our participation in society? And that's what I really hope people get from seeing that we won that award, because we are not, if you look at the alumni of the Cooper Hewitt Communications Design Award, you'll see a theme and a trend. A lot of people come from similar studios, similar pedigree, and we really don't. And that's great. I think that's the best thing. And I think even in one of the submissions, I think I said that off the cuff, but I really meant it, that I hope if we were to have won the award, I hope it shows more people that they too can push forward a narrative of how important design is in public life.
It sounds like you are only just getting started, Jessie.
I do feel like that. My husband's like, wait, don't you feel good? Aren't you ready to like...
No, I know. I get the energy. I understand it because I see it in myself. You are currently thinking, okay, that was great, but what's next? What's next?
What's next? Katie, 100%.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure our listeners have too. Thank you so much, Jessie, for your time today.
Thank you.
That was Jessie McGuire from Thought Matter. And yes, I really enjoyed that one. Because there's something in what she said that stuck with me, especially this idea that design isn't neutral, because it never really has been. We like to think we're just making things look nice, but we're not. We're shaping how people think, feel, and behave, all of it. No pressure, right? And I loved how she talked about imagination, not in a sort of fluffy kind of silly way, but as something we can actually use day to day to question things, push back a bit, and maybe make something better. I think if anything, it's just a reminder that you don't have to wait or gain permission from anyone else. You don't have to find the perfect client or the perfect brief. Just start with what matters to you and see where it goes. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And if you did, give us a follow, leave a little review, or share it with someone who might need a nudge right now. And I'll be back on Thursday with the Spark and Jessie to find out a little bit more about the person behind the brand. See you then. Thanks to Adobe Acrobat Studio for sponsoring this episode. If you're curious about what it can do for your workflow, head to the link in the show notes to explore.